a Porter. I fight for truth, justice, and the right to wear spandex. Good evening, church beloved. Tommy Dean. Construction manager, engineer in industrial construction, all in the United States. So I use humor there to win friends, influence people, and especially destroy my enemies. And when I retired, I took up stand-up comedy. I actually wanted to be an Instagram influencer, but I was unwilling to get the boom job. So I took up. I actually have taken up performing comedy in churches. And the reason for that is there's a restraining order against me at Kentucky Fried Chicken. Speaking of churches, so I'm riding around town the other day and I see this church. It said, "Church for the Deaf." In my mind, it goes a lot of times to this place that it should not go. And I said to myself, you know, if that's a Pentecostal church, then the sign language has got to get wild when they start speaking in tongues. So, I actually did perform at church, did a sermon in March for the first time. And 2 years ago, my pastor offered me the opportunity, and I chickened out. You see, I'm sitting there and I'm imagining myself before God in heaven, kind of like that light up there. And God's going, "Hey, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, get a look at this guy. He had an opportunity to take his church, and he did a comedy sermon. Peter, do you have any of those dollar store crowns left in the back?" So, August of this year, I will be married to the lovely Mrs. Porter for 42 years. And one thing my mother said is, when you marry somebody, you marry for them. So we'll take just a short little tale about my wife's mother, who was just a wonderful woman and a bit of a nutcase. So she was raised in this little town in Florida, and at the time she was a product of a quite controversial mixed-faith marriage. You see, the father was a Methodist, and the mother was a Baptist. So like many mixed-faith marriages, they had to come to some compromise. So they agreed that every week, this little girl, like I said, it's a different time. She's about 4, 5, 6 years old, I don't know at the time. She would walk out of the house, and one week she would walk to the Methodist Sunday School, and next Sunday she would walk to the Baptist Sunday School. And this worked fine for a while. Until one day, Frida's mom, her name was Frida, she was out shopping in this little town, and she ran into both the Sunday school teachers. And they said, "What's wrong with Frida? Is she sick? Haven't seen her in church in a few weeks. Is she okay?" And the mother goes, I don't, she's not sick. I just need to see what's going on." She goes home and she goes, "Frida, I ran into your Sunday school teachers today, and they said you have not been going to church." And she said, "Mama, that's not true. You see, Daddy, he's a Methodist. You're a Baptist. And me, I've decided to be Episcopalian." True story. So I'm originally, and this is, a lot of y'all are going to be nodding your heads going, "Oh, this makes perfect sense right now." I'm originally from West Virginia. Almost heaven. That's why we're leaving. Anyway, West Virginians get a bad rap, and some of it is deserved. But I will tell you that I believe West Virginians are a lot nicer than most people from throughout the South. There's a saying that they use in the South. "Well, let's stare diploma in engineering from West Virginia Institute of Technology. And I decide somewhere outside Amarillo, Texas, to stop at my first real Mexican restaurant. And I was familiar with turtle tacos, burritos, and enchiladas, but my vast life experience had not prepared me for some of the things on the menu board. There was something called a torta, and I said, "Is that a Mexican turtle sandwich?" And then there was something called chicken mold sauce. And I'm imagining these Mexicans in a field with clubs and sacks and a pot they were throwing the molds in. But I ordered a burrito, but it wasn't the special day it could have been. You see, I had lost my burrito virginity 2 years earlier to a cheap and tawdry burrito from Taco Bell. But then they asked me more questions that I was not prepared for. They said, "Do you want green chili or red chili?" And I said to myself, whenever I have opened that can of chili, it's been red. Why would I want chili that's gone bad and turned green? And then they said, "Do you want pinto beans or refried beans?" Now, West Virginia growing up, I had eaten a lot of beans. And my mama had reheated them. But I couldn't figure out why anybody would want to fry beans, much less fry them a second time. True story, folks. True story. So I'm going to finish up here with a little story tonight. Anybody here like to take road trips? My wife and I love to take road trips. We'll tell you a little story about our trip to Yellowstone Park a few years ago. And a couple of run-ins we had with the wonderful people at TSA on this trip. And by the time it's over with, you're going to figure out my wife is a full-blood smart. So on this trip, part of this trip at Yellowstone, we visited at that time my wife's 96-year-old Uncle Bill in Montana. Uncle Bill, Pearl Harbor survivor. Uncle Bill, first helicopter pilot for LAPD. Uncle Bill arrested Charlie Manson. Living freaking legend. People like that don't stop. They're reinventing themselves. So at age 96, he developed a new career. Prairie dog sniper. He had a professional military-grade sniper rifle, went out to California, and shot prairie dogs from 600 yards away. Professional. So the last day we're there, he shows my wife and me his professional-grade prairie dog sniper rifle. My wife picks it up. She looks down the scope. She pulls the trigger. We don't think anything of it. 10 hours later, we are in the airport. My wife has made part of a random TSA search. And they just, guess what? Discover that she has gunpowder residue under her fingernails. Now, my wife does not raise her hand to the TSA. Well, excuse me, my uncle's prairie dog sniper rifle. No, my wife takes on the role play of the southern damsel in distress. And she, "Ma'am, do you realize that there's gunpowder residue under your fingernails?" "Well, oh my, who would have thought? Oh my goodness, could you just imagine?" So the TSA agent walks away, comes back about a minute later, obviously feeling that this poor Southern Belle's dignity has been affronted. He says, "Ma'am, it must have just been a false positive. Go about your day." Now me, on another leg of the trip, you're going to find out I'm not there. So guys our age, we develop a leakage problem. And to solve that, we wear something called a heat pad. So I got up this morning, I put a heat pad on, I went to But this day the guy kept wandering in a circle around my groin. And he was patting me in a circle around my groin. And I'm going, what in the world is going on? I look behind me, and there on the computer screen is an outline of my body with a white rectangle over my groin. And at that moment, I knew I was a suspected PPAD terrorist. He kept risking me. He kept wanting me. And then, like I say, I'm not as smart as my wife. I raised my hand and I said, "Excuse me, sir. You see, I'm wearing a PPAD. If you will just allow me to reach in, pull it out, you can examine it, and we can all go about our day." Well, one cannot be brandishing a PPAD of mass destruction here. So this TSA agent did what any good TSA agent do. He brought in his supervisor. And what did that supervisor do? He did not obtain that role by accident. He noticed I was wearing a belt. So he had me remove my belt. And then he was risking, and more patting, and more wanting, and then he started to go in a vigorous motion on my sides. And without my belt, my pants started to fall off. Out of the goodness of his heart, he allowed me to put one hand on my side, one hand in the air, while this continued. After a bit, I was beginning to feel hopeless, helpless. I was just feeling vulnerable. And I turned around, looking for the one person I could depend on, the anchor in my life, my wife, who had turned her back on me and was mortally. After a little additional risking, the TSA agent informed me of an actual TSA maneuver called the crotch grapple. After the appropriate or inappropriate crotch grapple was performed, the TSA agent informed me I could go about my day and I was no longer a threat to national security. I lurched forward, shoeless, my pants